I got to start over. Sorry, I wasn't ready, John. Okay. Good evening and welcome to For Further Review. This evening I have three very special guests. I have Dr. Carissa Brooks.
We gotta start.
I'm sorry. I saw my face up there and it
She got scared.
Okay.
And it's Mary right by me.
All right, are we doing the music thing again?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Mary Gilbert.
Mary? What? Oh. Don't get me tickled. I can't get. Good evening and welcome to For Further Review. This evening we have very special guests with us. We have Dr. Carissa Brooks and we have Dr. Tammy Grizzard and we have Miss Karen Hawkins. And they are really the core of the instruction team. We also have Crystal Ferris who handles federal projects and we have Michelle Humble who works mainly with the preschool. But I thought I would have these three to talk a little bit about instruction because obviously Murfreesboro City Schools have come a long way since this time last year. And so would you mind, Karen, if we could start with you, would you just talk a little bit about last year and what was accomplished?
Well, last year we started out the year really fine-tuning some of the work around the math and looking at what we wanted students to know and getting real clear on the standards. As a district, we follow the Tennessee Department of Education's math curriculum, but we really took some time and went through those standards and we put them in a logical sequence, and we followed students throughout the year to make sure that they were making the gains that we wanted to see in math, and this is one of the things we worked on. Another thing is we had a strong focus on reading, and we put into place several layers of intervention for our students to make sure that those students that were struggling got the support that they needed, and students that really already knew the curriculum had some enriching kind of support as well. So we spent a lot of time fine-tuning teams, working, figuring out what it meant to be a learning community, a professional learning community where we all work together and look at students, individual students, skill by skill, and try to make a difference.
Carissa, she mentioned reading, and of course that's your specialty. Could you talk a little bit about, just briefly about last year, but I'd like you to spend some time talking about any changes that you see this year and why.
Okay, one of the things that we did last year when I first came in was looking at what reading instruction looked like across the district. And one of the things that I noticed is that we didn't really have a common curriculum across the schools or even in the classrooms. People were doing their own thing. And so one of the things we tried to do was come in initially and do some training on what the 5 elements of reading are, what the development of reading looks like, and how we could have a guaranteed and viable curriculum across our schools. So for this year, the thing that looks the most different is we now have a curriculum called Reading Street that we use across the district. We have pacing guides so that if a student moves from one school to the next, they have that guaranteed curriculum that they don't have to adjust to the new school and the curriculum, just the new school. So we've really tried to have that guaranteed curriculum across.
Okay. Tammy, last year you were in the classroom. You saw the changes that happened last year. Could you talk about that as far as from a teacher's perspective, what last year was like?
Absolutely. The first thing that across the district that teachers are doing is having instructional dialogue, which I think is key. We last year met as teams with leaders from the district level, principals, assistant principals, and we take each kid and talk about how is this student progressing. If he is progressing at a high level, we think about what are interventions we can put in place to enrich their learning and take them to new heights. If the student was struggling, we would take individual children and say, okay, what have we tried with these students? What can we try? What does it look like in the classroom? Really talking to teachers about what is going well in your classroom? How are you successful with this? And brainstorming strategies and developing lesson plans and unit plans and just really having a strict focus on instruction, learning, and kids.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you with another question then. This year you're at the central office. What is the difference in your job now and when you were a classroom teacher?
The big thing is I get to go into classrooms and model for teachers. Last year, I served as a mentor for a lot of teachers, but with the classroom of students, and they had a classroom of students many times that we couldn't see each other teach. And that's the big difference now, is I get to go in, because I'm a visual person. You can tell me something all day long, but until I see it, that sometimes I don't get a clear picture. And that's truly the huge difference, and that's what people tell me. Just today, I went in and I modeled for 2 teachers the whole literacy block, and they told me as soon as I was finished, I see it. I see it put together, and I can do it. And I think that's critical, and that's the thing that I do a lot of, and I think it's beneficial for teachers.
Carissa, let me come back to you, please, on this one. Before you were at Vanderbilt, and you worked with, obviously, a lot of school systems, a lot of teachers, any surprises in coming here from Vanderbilt as far as what you thought the job would be? Because I think that a lot of times people have an idea of what it means to be at a district level, and some people think that's easy work. So could you talk a little bit about that and kind of what your day's like and the surprises that you had coming from the university, coming from working with various schools to coming into one school system?
I think the biggest surprise for me is I really thought when I started this job I was going to be doing right off the bat what Tammy was talking about, going in and modeling for teachers what instruction looked like. When I got here, I realized that first I had to back up and really set some structures in place, because if you don't have the structure, it's really difficult to really put into place those layers of intervention that really help students. So there was a lot of time building relationships with teachers, gaining trust, really putting in place those structures that we could determine where intervention was most appropriate, what we needed to do, what it looked like. So now I think we're at that point where we are going in and modeling that instruction. So to be honest, it was slower than I thought it was going to be. I came in ready and said, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, but I had to back up and really look at the most effective way to do that.
Karen, could you talk a little bit about what you see different this year as far as what the professional learning communities, what teachers will be doing when they come together versus last year, or is there going to be any difference?
I think the biggest difference is now we have common curriculum to talk about. We have common scope and sequence in both reading and math. We've implemented some common assessments across the district, so we really can look at each unit and say which students made good progress, how do, if this school, if teams of school teachers get together across schools, they actually have the same materials to put down on the table and say, can we talk about this and can we improve our practice based on what we've learned about what students know? To me, that's the biggest difference. And I'm not saying that every teacher every day is going to be on the same page, because they're not. And I'm not saying that we want all instruction to be the same, because we don't. We really want teachers to take this curriculum and then use what they know about instruction and their professional knowledge of teaching and learning and bring those two pieces together to really do great things for students. And I think that's the biggest difference that I see, is when we come together and we have conversations, we have something in common to talk about. And last year we probably had more uncommon things than we did common because of the differences across the district. And I can say with confidence that all of our students, while the instruction may be different from classroom to classroom, we know that all of our students have the same opportunity as far as curriculum's concerned. And that's important to me, and I know it's important to you and to other members of this district that we are able to say that for our students.
Tammy, any surprises?
Not necessarily a surprise, because I know teachers work hard every day. but the appreciation that teachers show each day that makes my job so rewarding, to still get to go in and see children and faces. And I guess that's the biggest surprise to me is the openness of teachers and the appreciation that they feel when they're receiving help, and the notes of appreciation that you get, and their willingness to, let you in and trust you, as Carissa said, and share their weaknesses and improve every day. That's been my biggest surprise, but it's been a great one.
Carissa, advice for parents about helping their children read.
Read with them. The best way you get to Carnegie Hall is practice. So with reading, it's exactly the same way. Practice with your children, help them with their homework. But especially for young children, lap reading is a very, very powerful predictor of future reading, just how much exposure kids have to books. Also, the curriculum is pretty rigorous when we're looking at, especially kindergarten, first and second, move into core curriculum. We really have a rigorous curriculum. And so children are going to need some help, and especially just learning to enjoy school at the same time, so that positive attitude about school and learning.
Karen, let me ask you this. If I said fill in the blank, a good teacher is?
A good teacher is one that has an understanding of their students, that really knows what their students are able to do. They know how to motivate those students, and they know how to bring instruction to them in a way that everyone in that classroom can grasp it. So just a real strong knowledge of their classroom and what makes that class tick.
Tammy, you get the last question. What's your vision for Murfreesboro City Schools?
My vision is for every student in Murfreesboro to have access to a quality teacher that every school system in the district would want. My vision for students in Murfreesboro is to be in a loving environment that's conducive to learning, and have quality activities in which those students have a desire to learn. When they look back at Murfreesboro City, they have a longing to relive those experiences, but also to take those experiences and the knowledge they've gained and be successful in life.
Ladies, I thank you very much. I say quite often that we have the best central office staff in the state, and I think we can see why tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Indeed, it is our purpose that every student that we have succeed, that really they achieve their own academic and personal success as high as they possibly can, and we thank you for your support of Murfreesboro City Schools.